Hello everyone, this is Rachel with Dark Knight Coaching. Today's video is going to be a general collective message for you. So if you've stumbled upon this video, there's probably something here for you. I kind of just go with the flow and pull the energy. We do have some major lunar cycles coming up, and if you're not familiar with lunar cycles, make sure you kind of check that out. The moon is tied to our emotions. So the moon creates the tide, but it is also the tide of our emotions that ebb and flow. So if you aren't familiar with Leo, Leo is a sign of confidence, of courage, of bravery, and we are going to have a full moon hold on, is it a full moon or a new moon? I think it's a new moon in Leo, but either way, that's going to happen on the August the 4th, and it's a new moon, sorry. It's a new moon in Leo, so this is going to be the time for you to plant the seeds for a life that you really want to pursue, for a new trajectory, a new idea. This is going to be a time that you're going to have this bravery, this courage, this drive to get you going a little bit further than where you've been before. Because I do see, with the cards that I pulled here, I do see a lot of chaos that's happening for you right now, but it's controlled chaos is the best way I can think to put it. Coordinated chaos. I know it sounds contradictory in ways, but it is divinely guided. So you are in this kind of breaking point where you're breaking out of traditional beliefs or traditional value systems, or just like cultural indoctrination type of things, and you're moving into a different timeline. And there's going to be a lot of positive change that comes from that, but I do see right now it's just a bit of a possibly a stressful time period you're going through. So the new moon in Leo is going to provide you with a little more courage, a little more willpower, essentially. So it's going to get all of us collectively a little bit further on our timelines, a little bit faster. So it's a fire energy. So it's going to move things up a little bit quickly. And then Aquarius. There is a full moon in Aquarius on the 19th of August, and I only mention that because you did get the service card when I pulled your chakra cards. So the chakra cards, this is tied to your sacral chakra, which is basically kind of like your fun zone, your pleasure center. So if you've been feeling like lackluster when it comes to like having fun or enjoying yourself or pursuing your creative passions and that sort of thing, this is like the time to work on that this month. So this service card is tied to serving humanity, and that's what Aquarius is all about as well. So if you haven't decided what it is you're going to do to like help other people, or if you're like, I have no interest in helping other people, it doesn't have to necessarily be like this big, go donate all of your 10% of your funds to something. It doesn't have to be like that. This could just be like helping out a friend, helping out a neighbor, helping out your community in some small way. It doesn't have to be big. And I only say your community because the I Ching card that I pulled for you was number 45, and I know this is not the traditional way to pull I Ching. I have a deck of I Ching cards. I do have the coins, but I don't sometimes I'll flip them, but I don't do it on here because it takes a lot of time to go through and write down each line, because it's tied to feminine and masculine energy essentially, and then that's what the lines are on here. If you don't know what I Ching is, then just forget about it. But your card was 45, which is gathering. It says creating success. With the king's presence, there's a temple. Fruitful to see great people, creating success. Constancy bears fruit. So this to me is all about having that constancy, having the consistency within yourself to put yourself out there, to be in a gathering, in a group situation, to help your community, to create something beautiful, and to help further that along. Because at least for me, I feel more useful, more valuable when I'm giving back in some way, be it small, be it big. It can just be like, even a simple text to someone like, hey, I'm thinking about you. Like I don't want you to, not that I don't want them to feel a certain way, but it's like I want them to know like I have them on my mind, or I'm thinking about them, and somebody cares about them, especially if it's somebody who's maybe like elderly, like this picture, like she's alone and probably a nursing home or something like that. And a lot of the times when our elders enter these like care centers, they may not even talk to anyone throughout the course of their day. I mean, they might have a regular assistant or aide or whatever that checks on them, but sometimes it's not even a substantial conversation with me, you know what I mean? So just keep that in mind. So it might be something so small as reaching out to your neighbor or something you don't see very often. Now, the other advice from Spirit is take time to breathe. This is from my Moon Wisdom Oracle deck. This is all about breathing. If you're not familiar with the Wim Hof method, I highly recommend that as a meditative practice. If you're like, I don't know what that is, give it a Google. If you pull it up initially, you're going to see stuff about an ice bath. The ice bath you can do, it's optional, but there's a lot of free apps out there that you can download that are basically teaching you a breathing technique to help lessen anxiety in a sense. So I find that that's a nice way for me to decompress a little bit, and you can spend 1 minute or 5 minutes or 20 minutes doing it. It's totally up to you, and that's the part that I like about it. It's also kind of a dualistic thing, because when you do the breathing practice, there's a part in the app that has you hold your breath, and that's also how kind of scuba divers or snorkelers or whatever, they hold their breath and they can increase their lung capacity, and they can hold their breath for like crazy amounts of time, like 4 minutes. And if you practice the Wim Hof, you can if you practice it consistently, you can get to that point as well, where you're like holding your breath for like abnormally long periods of time. So that might be of interest to you. Now, the other card I pulled for you, I'm going to start over here. This is from my Power of Love deck. You can't see it very well, but I'm just going to read it to you anyways. So it says freedom. You are releasing any self-imposed restrictions or perceived limitations through the loving energy of openness. Now, if that's not another confirmation, I have this Moon Oracle card. It says, I let go of what is no longer serving me, and I am open to what is. So both of these cards essentially say the same exact thing, and I was like, wow, somebody's really breaking out of traditional belief systems. They're really breaking out of something that they were stuck in, something that they were trapped in. Because you also have, from my Wisdom Oracle deck, Round and Round. This is about cycles, being trapped in a loop, a karmic loop, a toxic situation, a negative mindset. Like you're going in circles. You're spinning yourself like a dog chasing its tail. It's almost it can be mental torture when you're in that phase. And this is a phase that we all get into. So this is not like, oh no, like how dare you want to break free from the chains. It's a necessary change, because whatever is affecting you negatively is lowering your vibration. So if it's not adding to you and it's not adding value to your life, if it's not uplifting you, if someone or something in your life isn't providing comfort and peace and tranquility or stability or those sorts of things, like, use discernment, obviously. But if it's not adding value, then you probably shouldn't be doing it or be around it or any of those things. I mean, that's, this is a very broad centered reading, so I'm not telling you to go off on a whim and quit your job, but if you feel guided to do that, like, I've been there, like, done it. Like, sometimes it's not always the best idea in hindsight, but sometimes it's what you need to get that kick in the butt to get you really on the right track of where it is you want to be versus where it is you are at the moment. So Spirit is asking for you to follow your intuition. This card is from my intuition deck. It says, play a guessing game every time you get a text or a call. Are you spot on? Is it wishful thinking? Or do you just know other people's habits? Tune in and go with your gut and see if you can harness your intuition. So make sure you're practicing that, like trusting yourself. Sometimes that can be hard when we break from traditional belief systems, from traditional value systems. If you're familiar with theology, most religious affiliations, I find, have the same base principles and the same base mindset. So I only mention that because I pulled the Cave card, and I usually don't like to talk about religion on here, but it's almost impossible not to, because the tarot is literally from it comes from the first 5 books of the Bible, which is also known as the Torah. So if you don't know about religion, or if you haven't studied it, or if you're like, I'm agnostic, I'm an atheist, I don't care about any of this stuff, you're watching a tarot video based on religious archetypes. I'm just going to throw that there because religion is important, whether we agree with it or not. I think it is something that needs to be shifted, but we are in the age of Aquarius, and that's what we're all kind of doing. We're shifting our value systems, and we're shifting these core beliefs that have been instilled for years, decades, centuries, whatever. We're moving out of the old and into the new age, and that's why you're here. That's why you're watching this reading, because something's not sitting right with you with the traditional ways, the traditional method. And when I first started doing tarot, I thought it was taboo, and like rebellious. But then when I actually dove into it and started doing it and realized it was almost like a Kabbalistic, mystic form of divination stemming from, these major archetypes. And archetypes are typically like traditionally Catholic based. It was just like this slew of knowledge that slapped me in the face, and I was like, wow, this is very can be very helpful if you're open-minded and open-hearted to all facets of religion or theology, or just not even every part of it, but just like little bits and pieces. That's kind of how I view myself. It's almost like pantheism. If you don't know what that is, you got to Google that too. But it's just like this vast network of interconnectedness that we all share, which is basically the oneness. So the cave card is significant, though. Sorry, I'm like ADD on and off. Can't help it. It's neurodivergent, okay? As soon as I get on one topic, I'm like, oh, I got to talk about this too. And then I go back to the first topic. So I could talk about this all day, but I won't, because I'm going to try to cut this short. And I have 2 more wisdom oracle cards and then tarot cards, and then it's over. So hang in there with me if you want. If not, whatever. Free will. So the cave. When I see this cave card, I think of this myth or the story that I read or heard. I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically like all these people were trapped in this cave and they'd never seen a fire before. Somebody lit a fire and said it was the sun. So, when they were told to like venture outside, it was like so bright, they were so terrified that they just went back inside the cave, because they were like, oh no, we have the sun inside, like we don't need to go out and explore. But they had been indoctrinated into a belief system based on fear-mongering. Sound familiar? So that's why I say that, because on the bottom of the deck in the subconscious is the shadow. So you have the cave and you have the shadow. And I think that's very vital. It's very important that you integrate your shadow. And if you're like, well, what is my shadow? Your shadow is all of the curiosities, all of the fear, all of the shame that you keep hidden and trapped within, that you're like, I'm afraid that if I say how I feel, if I say what I think, if I try this new thing, then it's not going to work out, or people aren't going to receive me well. Who cares? Who cares? What if they don't? Are those really people you want in your life? That's the hard part. This is the hump that most of us can't get over, because it's like we're so afraid of the judgment. We're so afraid of the ego. We're so lost in this keeping up with the Joneses narrative that we're afraid to move. And it leaves us frozen and paralyzed in fear of what someone else's judgment of you is. And no one can judge you, because no one has ever lived the life you've lived. So whatever got you to this point, whatever got you to the place that you're at, where you're, trapped in this cycle, it's self-made, by the way. I know that's kind of a slap in the face sometimes, but it is self-made, because it's all in your mind. And if you lose someone for being authentic, for being honest, for being open and transparent, those were people that you grew past. So like your energy when you're authentic, when you're loving, when you're open, it vibrates 5,000 times higher than when you're withholding and you're internalizing and you're living in this fearful state. And this is scientifically proven. So if you don't believe me, just Google your toroidal field and you'll see that the vibration of love way outweighs the vibration of fear. And authenticity is love, because you're loving yourself. That's what being authentic is. That's why I do like authenticity coaching. I do like life coaching, because it's like people aren't even sure how to get there. To be open and honest with themselves is the first step, and then to be open and honest with others is the next step. And sometimes that's just scary. But there are things that you can do, and you can do it like little bits at a time. It's not a rush situation, but if you're interested in coaching, please feel free to reach out to me and send me a DM or whatever, and we can do a session. Or if you're interested in a tarot reading, I just do personal energetic readings as well. But don't forget, like, you are divinely guided. You are divine energy. We all have eternal life. We are in these bodies temporarily for our soul to learn lessons, and then we go back and we recycle. We go through, if we didn't pass the first time, we go through it again. And not only does this happen in life, now, this current life, it happens in the next life, if you believe in those things. And if you don't believe in those things, you might want to Google 21 grams of energy when we die and see what happens. Because something disappears. This is scientifically proven. Something disappears when we all die. It's 21 grams of energy. And as we all know, M equals what? E equals MC squared. Sorry, it's been a long time since I was in school. But energy doesn't go anywhere, basically, is my point. So the Ankh came out, and the Ankh represents the key to all hidden knowledge, and the loop symbolizes the eternal soul, as it has no beginning or end. I love the Ankh. It's a very famous Egyptian symbol. It also very closely represents a toroidal field, which is our literal energetic field. So give that a Google. And it also looks very much so like the components of a Tesla coil. And if you don't know about Tesla, it's not just a truck by Elon Musk. It's like energy. So give that a Google too if you're feeling guided. But anyways, I'm going to dive into tarot now because I've been chatting long enough. So thank you for hanging in there if you're hanging in there. And the first card I pulled for you was a major shift as well. This is the Wheel of Fortune. This is in your past energy. So your past energy is the Wheel of Fortune, which means the wheel is turning. Like, you are moving forward. I do feel like you're transitioning out of this cycle, this bad, I don't want to say bad habit, but this toxic relationship, toxic work environment, toxic friend group, and maybe even just toxic mindset when it comes to your self, your being, your self-worth, or something like that. Like you're getting out of that state. And your present energy is the Nine of Pentacles. This is about putting in the work. This is a good card to have. It's also kind of a tough card to have because I've had this card for quite some time. And it's basically like being in your masculine energy, which isn't so bad if you're a man, I guess, in your masculine energy, because it's kind of like expected. But as a woman having to be in your masculine energy all the time, it's pretty exhausting. So this is about getting a new job, a new opportunity, really going for it and saving, and, you know, maybe even treating yourself if you have the luxury and availability to do that. It's also about having this like independent nature and being content on your own. Now your future card I pulled is the Two of Wands. This is about planning. This is planning for the future. This is a new portal. This is a new path. And we have a lot of opportunities opening with this Leo new moon to set some new precedents for ourselves. This could just be lifestyle things. Like maybe you want to start roller skating. Maybe you want to start going biking, hiking, skiing, whatever it is. You're like planning to do all of these things. And it could just be like setting the plan for your own business, for your own side hustle, for your, you know, new hobby or whatever it is. It's something along those lines where you're planning this new life, this new path essentially. It's a new chapter opening up for you. And then lastly, in your subconscious, you have the Ten of Wands. This is a heavy energy, I'm not gonna lie. It is like the weight of the world on your shoulders kind of a vibe. Like subconsciously you feel like crushed and like you're carrying heavy burdens. You're probably not wrong. Like you probably are, and that is life. And I know that's kind of not a great thing to say, but that's the kind of I pulled another clarifier card just to see, and you have the Five of Cups. It's apathy, regret, remorse, just ill contentment. You're just not satisfied because 3 cups spilled out and you're like, what the heck happened? Where did this come from? It kind of maybe knocked you out of nowhere and you're like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? How do I make it now? And the moon was right below that. So there's something you don't see. There's some illusion or lack of clarity that you're having with these lunar cycles. The moon brings revelations. It brings enlightenment, even though that seems a little contradictory, but like it does, because the moon is like the shadow of the sun, and you can't have healing if you haven't looked at the shadows. And the moon is all about emotions, so it's like the shadow of the emotion of whatever you're feeling. Make sure you can identify it, make sure you can put a name to it. For me, I sometimes find it very difficult, even being the age that I am, to label what it is I'm feeling, because I feel like I'm empathic, so I feel like I feel a lot of things all at once, and it can be so overwhelming that I'm like, I don't even know what I'm feeling. So then I start to disassociate, and then it gets complicated and not helpful, really, because then I usually lean into anxiety, and then that's when I have to like do a lot of meditative practices to get back down to like reality. And that might be how you're feeling right now. Like you feel like just heavy, burdensome. You can't concentrate. You can't focus because like this is always on your mind. In the back of your mind, it's always just like running on a loop. And Spirit is really trying to push you towards breath work is what I'm feeling here. So, and if you're like, I hate breath work, I don't want to lay down, music can be just as meditative. I have a video about binaural beats, so make sure you check that out, because music can help open your third eye. It can help, soothe yourself. It can open your heart space. There's a lot of great practices I have. If you check out my other videos, you can see, and hopefully that one of those things might help you. But yeah, that's what I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe, please, because it helps my channel to grow, and I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you next week.